It's said that I own this. That's what we say, right? I own this and you don't. But what does it mean to own something? How is it that my relationship with this object is any different from your relationship with this object? We both could use it if it was charged. We both could interface with it. We both could use it for its apps, its music playing qualities, its so on and so forth. It's not like you don't have any hands and I do, and so I can use it and you can't. It's sort of a physical limitation. No, it's a limitation that you have purely on a human construct that we call ownership. Ownership is a kind of entitlement. I can use this and you can't. Entitlement, right? And like all entitlements, it's based in coercion. The things that I own in my house, the things that you own in your house, you have separated off from the marketplace and you're hoarding them, holding them, with the threat that if anyone touches them in a way that you don't like to be touched, you'll stick the government on them. Now, it's become so commonplace, ownership. We take it for granted. We don't really realize that the bedrock foundation of it is coercion. It is the government, and that's the only way the government works. They throw you in jail, they put cuffs on you, they issue fines, they make you do community service, any number of things. It's all coercion. And so the idea of ownership and coercion are forever linked. A better society perhaps could do away with that. A better society perhaps could see a way in which we could, if not abolish the notion of ownership entirely, at least reform it. So that some things simply are not owned, or not ownable. That being said, there are plenty of things that I own that I really enjoy owning. And I don't think anyone else wants to own. My underwear, for example, my toothbrush, maybe even my bed. Things for hygienic purposes. It really should be used exclusively by a single person. But even then, could we not create a technology that would brush our own teeth that could be sanitized and used between people? Because after all, in our world right now, the only way to be comfortable is to acquire things. You hear a lot of people complaining about the consumerist attitude, right? Oh, we consume, and oh, goodness, how terrible is that of us? But, think about it, it's built into the system. If you want to eat something, you have to own a can of soup in your pantry in order to eat it. You have to own a stove also to cook it on. You have to own the pot and the pan and everything else. You have to own the bowl and the spoon to feed yourself with. And then you have to own the sink to wash everything after you're done eating. You have to own a lot of shit. And the sad part is, and the very impractical part of it is that 99% of the time all that shit's just sitting around collecting dust. You cannot possibly be engaged with all the things that you own all at the same time. And in a world where now the population is reaching into the billions, the fact that each one of us has to have our own goddamn things becomes a very impractical solution to the matter of sustainability and comfort. The new world is upon us. There's a lot of us, and there's very little to go around. But if managed intelligently, abundance is still possible. I point this out a little bit in terms of energy and wind turbines and so forth in the article. Fascinating stuff. You actually can see the documentary that I pulled most of that information from that part of the article anyway. And Carbon Nation, it's called. I think it's still available on Netflix. But that being said, another thing we have to consider is in a world where everything is based on profiteering, and profits can only be made off of scarcity, there's an incredible bias to keep things scarce when they actually are not. Take information, for example. They call this the fucking information age. There's no shortage of information, and yet I was able to stay alive here. You can see them behind me. This is the small remnants of the book business that I had going for a while there. They kept me alive for about 3-4 months. The information contained in those books were sold for anywhere from $20 to $120 a piece. And for what? I don't get it. Any amount of that information could be readily available online and could be transferred freely, easily, whatever else. It's just the cost of the broadband, you know, whatever. I know everything has a cost. Even if there isn't money, there's some kind of resource cost. But my God, there's no shortage of information, and yet we treat it as such. There is an incentive to keep things scarce, and that's really the danger of a money-based economy and a profiteering economy, something that is based off of profits. Moving resources around and that sort of thing, even using credits to move them around as a form of currency, that's not even necessarily insidious. What's insidious is the incentive we have to keep things scarce so that profits can be made. Because let's face it, information is not scarce today. Put it on the internet, anyone could have it. Anyone could have it. In fact, I just downloaded an entire coursework for a game development program that I almost enrolled in a local community college, and I would be paying, you know, $2,000 a semester. It's a small community college. $2,000 a semester in order to do this program. I bought the whole thing for $100 online. Exactly the same content. Exactly the same content. Why? What's the difference there? You know, it's not some monk like in the old days slowly making the copying and you're buying that sort of really a piece of art. It's all made up. It is bullshit. And there's a great documentary, I think it's called Pirate This Video. Talks a little bit about copyright laws, their absurdity, and really their destructive quality. So the question I need to leave all of you, because let's be frank, I don't have all the answers. So what would a new world look like without ownership, or at least a reformed ownership? If we can't do away with it entirely, what would the new world look like? How would we go about the day-to-day? I have a proposal. It's in the paper. The Venus Project talks about it a little bit. I talk about it, I think, in more detail. Because what we're really trying to do is manage the economy based on a collaborative approach. And I hang my hat on the research out there that suggests that we do want to collaborate with each other. We recognize that money's bullshit, that ownership is bullshit, but it's just all a bunch of coercion in the end. It's the Big Macs routine, the guy with the big club saying, "It's mine, damn it, or else I'll kick your ass." And that's not what a civilized society does, and we want to be civilized. We want a world where there are things that are abundant. We recognize that, you know, we could buy a big house and a big mansion and a bunch of cars and that can all be owned by one person, but that's not sustainable with billions of people. Now, what are we at? Are we at 8 billion yet? Billions of people around the world, and we're all going to have mansions? It ain't going to happen. Going to happen. It just isn't. What's the new model for abundance and sustainability? I think it begins with the abolition of copyright, patents, all of that. Resource utilization needs to be a collaborative approach. That the world's resources, to quote Jacques Fresco, is common heritage. And why not? What else is ownership but then coercion? That which you hold by coercion. Without coercion, we open the floodgates to collaboration, cooperation. And many of the things that we have, we treat as scarce when they actually are not. Or could just use a little bit of implementation of technology, a little ingenuity in order to make it work. I'm not going to sit here on my ass and say that everything could be made abundant if we just use the right technology, because we have the technologies, because I don't fucking have a clue if we have the technology or not. But I do know that the system that we're in right now gives us no incentive whatsoever to actually achieve abundance. So we're fucked unless we change something. What those changes are, I'm just a strand in the wider web of things. Just a piece of the puzzle. You're the rest.